Good afternoon, Vice President McGuire, Superintendent DiMauro, members of the board. My name is Scott DiMauro. I promise I'm not going to take as much time as the last session. Well, actually, I can't promise that. That's up to you. But I am a high school social studies teacher from the Worthington Schools, currently serving as the Vice President of the Ohio Education Association. And on behalf of OEA's 122,000 members, I appreciate the opportunity to provide a few comments on the resolution on today's agenda to supplement and clarify the high school graduation requirement recommendations. We appreciate the good work of the board and the superintendent in all of your efforts to come up with recommendations for a new permanent set of graduation requirements that, in accordance with Substitute House Bill 491, reduces reliance on state testing, encourages local innovation, and supports student readiness for career, college, and life. In particular, OEA supports the superintendent's recommendations to support students with deliberate planning and career advising, to provide early intervention for middle school and high school students not on track to meet graduation requirements, and provide training for teachers and others who will evaluate non-standardized demonstrations of student learning. Of course, we are very important partners in this work together. We urge the board to go further in looking at ways in which to instill creativity, imagination, and a desire to learn in the high school experience by rolling back the excessive burden of standardized testing. Ohio is in the minority of states that exceeds minimum federal testing requirements for high school students. The number of end-of-course exams, as well as the stakes attached to them, must be reduced. For example, the testing burden could also be reduced and teachers given more time to teach by re-examining how ACT and SAT testing requirements are handled and reconsidering what is needed for career technical and other students who are pursuing alternative pathways to graduation, particularly when it comes to retake requirements on tests. It's also important that educators have access to reliable test item analysis information that will help them better prepare their students for success. In any deliberations related to testing and graduation requirements, we urge policymakers to show that they value the professionalism and good judgment of Ohio's educators who have dedicated their careers to the success of all of our students, including incarcerated youth, students with disabilities, English learners, students with interruptions in their formal education, students in poverty, and students of color. I know that a lot of these issues that we're addressing are things that are going to be dealt with at the legislative level. But one thing in particular, as it relates to the resolution that you are considering today, OEA urges the board to stick with your November recommendation to have new graduation requirements take effect with the class of 2022. It is simply unfair and unreasonable to expect that students who are already halfway through their high school careers should be expected to meet a whole new set of requirements for graduation. They and the education professionals who support them need time to plan for these changes. The original Superintendent's Advisory Committee, which consisted of representatives of the K-12, higher education, and business communities, was right to recommend that any new requirements take effect with an incoming freshman class. This resolution that you passed in November doesn't even go that far. And so we strongly encourage the board to stand by the recommendation passed in November 2018 and reject an acceleration of the implementation timeline as presented in the draft resolution before you today. I also just want to make one comment reflection based on the very rich conversation that was shared earlier. And that is, in everything you do, and I want to commend the work of this board and the work of the superintendent and the department on the strategic plan and really always being focused on the mission of every child, our future. And also consider the impact of policy decisions on what is our core mission. I think we all agree that at the end of the day, what we want in our students is to foster a love of learning. We want to create lifelong learners. When we make decisions in terms of implementing policy related particularly to testing that inhibits that love of learning, that causes kids to like reading less, that causes kids to like school less, then we're doing them and our states and our business community a disservice. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You are within the 5 minutes. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments, please, from the board? If not, thank you, sir. At this time, we'd like to call together